From the wonderful
There you
world
go.
of sports, Radio Sports Scoreboard.
Okay, so the first thing I wanted to tell you guys about, we did this on the trip a little bit. We were at Cowboys training camp for
Oh, nice.
a week and a half. We took an RV out there, actually.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Still in Oxnard?
It is, yes. We stayed in Ventura. It was in Oxnard. Did the show from the RV most days. I guess every day. But I've been there. This is my 5th time. But most of the people in the media who are there have been there 20 to 30 times.
Really?
So it's 10 maybe minimum. You know, there's not a lot of newbies out there outside of the people who work for the Cowboys. Like their media arm, their public relations arm, they have people in their mid-20s. But most of the media people out there have been doing it a real long time. And I've done it this is my 5th time, but it's also been kind of sporadic. I've never had 3 years in a row or anything like that. And so I think with a lot of things, a lot of jobs probably stand-up comedian or fireman, you sort of get used to some of the really weird parts of it.
Yeah.
And then when you try to tell somebody about it, you realize it's weird. And so for me, being at Cowboys training camp, there's fans that attend there, obviously, less this year than in prior years. But I don't think that your David Moores or even Bobs of the world walk around there and realize how fucking strange this is. I mean, first of all, it's at like a Residence Inn that goes for about $190 a night. Like just your traveling mid-tier salesman. It's not like at a 5-star hotel. It's just and it's not, Oxnard's not a place you would visit on your own if you were in Southern California.
Yeah, don't picture the Star.
No, it's the furthest thing from where they actually practice.
Picture a high school practice field.
And maybe not even that, dude.
Why do they go there?
It's just
The
Wichita.
weather?
It's Wichita Falls in good weather.
Yeah, but they do like the weather. They are, this has been speculated about before, they are pretty popular with the Latino.
Okay.
Which is, it gets something for them to bring their kids out to come out. It's free.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then I think Jerry just likes being in Southern California for a month and a half. And the idea is
different base of hookers.
Exactly, for sure. Go to the media party and that becomes
Oh,
clear.
wait. Never mind. I take it back. I don't know how linked y'all are to the Cowboys organization.
Not really.
It's in court records.
Yeah.
Those
My
are public.
My buddy was a valet, like a fancy steakhouse that will go unnamed. But he says Jerry would come in sometimes. And it was like a moral dilemma of like, am I allowed to give this guy his keys?
Yeah. Ooh.
Like he's wasted with like 2 blondes that are obviously 20. Like,
yeah.
Like, hey, you didn't see nothing.
So
there's a lot unreported on that dude.
For sure.
Oh yeah.
A lot.
So I think they do it out there because
I've had my share of mess ups too, and we probably are well aware of those.
we are.
Bill Burr. Have you all seen him live before?
Yeah, a couple times.
Did you see him at the AAC when he was here like a year ago?
I don't think so, but I know he always goes after local sports teams.
He came out and that was like his opening. He was like, the Cowboys suck. And he was like, but we all know what the problem is. And then he was like, and he's probably going to die soon.
Yeah, I think maybe I saw that online.
And so he never said his name because like, I know he's a connected guy. I'm not saying any names, but y'all know.
And Jerry loves it out there. So anyways, there's basically 2 fields, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there's bleachers on one side of it that are maybe 10 rows up.
You're telling me it's unchanged.
It's unchanged.
And it's that same.
There's more like corporate boxes and stuff, but it's those same 2.
The layout is still the same.
There's only bleachers on one side.
So you got to go?
I've been a few times. Okay. Yeah, like 3 or 4.
Like I'm telling you, there are 6A high school football teams that would not practice in this field setup.
Agreed.
It's that shoddy.
And the players are they still staying?
They stay at
man, it looks like a fucking motel.
I mean, it's a small little Residence Inn type. Yeah. It's not anything special.
But it's not like it. But the living quarters don't go up. I mean, it's spread out. They're all like one.
There's no elevator.
It looks like a small apartment complex in Garland.
I think there is something about traveling to a thing where you're totally engrossed. You're in the community. There's no breaks. Like you're just with guys eating. Then you're in hotel rooms that aren't great. So you're like talking about football stuff.
Yes, your family's not there.
Yeah,
for sure. A lot of teams will travel. They'll just go like an hour away or something. I think the Rams might have been at Cal Lutheran, something like that. But Not everybody flies halfway across the country. But so the fields are there. There's bleachers. And from the bleachers to where the players are on the sideline might be 15 to 20 feet at the most. And in between there's a fence you can go through that is the VIP area. And if you're in the VIP area, you are 6 to 7 feet away from where players are on the sideline during their entire practice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, pictured like the chain gang.
Yeah,
Like,
pretty
that's
much.
where you're standing.
That's where you're standing. And you're just random guy who showed up here. And the funniest thing to me about it was, first of all, this is all very weird because when you see these guys up close, you're like, I see you playing in front of 30 million people or whatever the TV numbers are and selling mattresses every Sunday. And now you're just out here 5 feet away from this guy with like 2 tall boy Coronas as he watches you practice. And I think that's all really weird, but it became even weirder when people will yell at the players from the crowd like it's a high school football game. So, and I had our buddy Matt down there, and we had him on afterward to talk about it, and we've talked about it since then. He drove us out there. He's never been to camp. And he's standing there next to me as we're listening to like 50-something-year-old men, 5 beers in, yelling at Zeke like, hey, 2 hands on the ball, Zeke. 2 hands, high and tight.
Yeah.
Jesus. And he's from me to Blake. And this guy, he's made $100 million. And they just yell at the players.
But the other guy played JV.
Yeah, right. And he's got
Starting
a Cowboys
running
jersey
back,
on.
JV.
And they'll just sometimes just yell their name
Zeke!
with no real strategy.
Zeke! Zeke.
Dak!
Like what happens if he looks your way?
Yes, what can I do for you?
Yeah, it's the Ron Artest
Ed.
moment.
Yeah.
Just like, I didn't think he'd respond.
Yeah. At the end, when people are yelling, I can kind of get it because they're looking for autographs.
Yep.
But when they're in the middle of 11 on 11, and like Jake Ferguson's jogging off the field, they're like, Jake! And the player just has to ignore them.
Yeah.
It's really weird to be in a situation where a couple hundred people 10 feet away just yell your name at you while you're doing your job and you just can't even react to it.
I'm sure it's not a purposeful, like, this is why we do this. But, they do play in giant crowds on TV. Like, there is a high stress,
Yeah, that's
high
true.
pressure. Like, if you can't ignore an old drunk guy yelling your name,
That's true.
and accomplish your task,
Yeah,
maybe you don't belong here.
The other one was there was a guy who wouldn't shut up about Trey Lance. Then when he came in, I can't remember if this is when he was the 2 or the 3, but when he came in after Dak or Cooper, the guy was like, here he comes, to no one in particular. Like, he's looking around in the crowd, and Matt and I are like, okay, here he comes. And he's like, here he comes. 19, the future.
We're all hosting our own little podcast in our head.
Yes. Yes. And then Trey Lance went like 2 of 9.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, I guess the future's not here right now. But anyways, it was just it's a wild experience. And then you walk off to go talk to the players afterward. And again, dudes that you just see on television. It's weird to just walk up to Micah Parsons and just be like, hey man, what's up?
Yeah, he's just a 23-year-old guy.
Yeah, and they
Hello?
really do kind of seem normal when you talk to most of them. You just forget that because they have like abnormal lives. It's very strange. Their kids are out there running around after practice. The coaches are picking the kid up.
It does have a real kind of summer camp vibe to it.
It does. That's a perfect way to put it.
And the people, the patrons that show up for this, number one, you have to really fucking love football to watch practice.
Yeah. Maybe learn something interesting.
What are you learning?
I do kind of like that vibe. Did y'all ever read Gary Cartwright? The old, he was an old beat reporter in the 70s and 80s. It was like the Texas Monthly. He was a big writer.
It sounds familiar.
And he talked about like he hated Jerry Jones because he'd talk about like the heyday of the Cowboys was when they were at the Cotton Bowl and like people sat on hay bales and the players, they weren't rich people yet. So they'd have like nights they'd go drink with the fans.
Yeah.
Like go to a bar. And he was like, that's when it was the best. When they kind of had that, like they were just dudes that were good at football.
And to his point, there's a shitty dive in Oxnard that apparently all the coaching staff goes to it at night.
Which
like
one?
Fans go there.
Did you go?
It's a cash-only place right on the beach.
No, I mean,
Hell
it's in Oxnard.
It is
far away.
a curious choice
Yeah.
because they were okay. So Thousand Oaks was before predated Oxnard. That was during the Landry years, I guess, and maybe even subsequently. But that's like east of Oxnard, kind of further inland. Oxnard is coastal. I bet Ventura didn't want anything to do with it.
No,
because Ventura. I mean, it isn't amazing how they're just like stacked on top of each other,
but very
and how different.
Yeah.
And then Malibu, I guess, is a little bit further north of or northwest of south
of Ventura.
Of Ventura? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Malibu's closer. Yes. Okay. But yeah, it's just so weird that Oxnard's just this strange.
Yeah, it's weird.
And if you get out and drive around in rural Oxnard, like right outside of where camp is, it
can get dicey.
It's the barrio, man.
Yeah,
100%.
It's Garland,
and it's a lot of Raiders stuff down there too.
The Raiders and Cowboys are definitely. That's definitely your top ranked teams out there.
Did anybody get hurt while you were there?
Was it while we were there? No, because Sam Williams was down.
That was before.
Yeah. I don't think so. Why?
I ran a 40-yard dash for a fantasy football league this morning.
This morning?
The Cowboys are looking for a body.
Oh, okay. What'd you
Jimbo cranked out a 5.34.
Okay. Respectable for...
Not the worst.
Okay. What was the worst?
5'6'2".
All guys about the same age?
Yeah. I expect my brother, we have to make his up tomorrow because he couldn't make it.
Like
so I'll be timing it.
Some prima donna at the combine?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not running today.
He just wanted to see the other scores first.
And I've always been faster than him, and I'm in better shape than him now. And he's 40. So I think he might be our first sixer.
So how is this related to the league?
If they need a body, people going.
No. Your league.
It determines.
Why did you have to run a 40 to play fantasy
draft
football?
order? Draft order.
Okay.
So we're ranking that, and then you get to pick your spot based off of your time.
Yeah, that's the most fun part.
Yeah, it's the best. Because there is kind of the weird thing. We made it to where you get to pick where you draft.
Yeah, that's huge.
Because if you just rank it, then being 8, if it's an 8-man league, that 8-9, the snake draft, kind of not a bad spot.
Yeah.
And typically you don't want one.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So you're going to compete real hard and get like 3rd or 4th, and then just a guy walks it and gets a better spot than you.
Did any of your homies break 5?
No. Oh, God, no.
No?
Escalante might be the only shot. But we did it. He's working today. So we did it at a park across from 19's. And he got a run as we were about to do it.
You guys are out here dicking around, running 40s.
On our dime. On our dime, they're doing this.
He made the run. The call came in. He left to go do the run. Nothing happened.
That's awesome.
But I don't know if he's done it yet because he's on the ambulance.
So this other story, how much attention have you paid to Dion and Coach Prime in Colorado and all the
I was
BS?
Pretty interested in it last year until they tanked and started losing a bunch.
Came out pretty hot.
I was very cult of personality following it with that lens.
Yeah, and he annoys the piss out of me, but I can't look away.
Right.
So the latest story for the Buffalo football program is in the wake of looking for NIL funding and trying to compete with these powerhouses like the Texas NIL fund and the Clemson and Oklahoma. I mean, there's so much money inside those programs now. It's ridiculous. So the guy that Colorado had handling NIL, his idea last year, he recently departed the team. He was a special teams assistant and he handled NIL, was to travel to Saudi Arabia and pitch
Fuck yeah.
the kingdom on investing in Colorado Buffalo football out of their, whatever they call it, their PIF, their public.
Yeah.
They wanted live money.
Yeah. I mean, they did it with Live. They've done it with.
We're going to do a pump and dump scheme on a shit coin. We're going to get some cornerbacks in here. All right.
That's basically what it is. They did it with. They own a couple soccer teams, F1 team maybe.
They've had that famous league where they're like offering stars from Europe like $1 billion contract.
Oh, that's right.
For 10 years.
Yeah. So that was this guy's brilliant idea, is that they're like, hey, you got to get out here and pound the pavement, make a little money. And he's like, I'm headed to Riyadh. And while it's funny, it's also, this is not the end of this.
Oh, no.
So maybe not Saudi Arabia, but
yeah,
the team that
I'm meeting with the Taliban next week.
Basically, I mean, right now it's usually been, hey, I'm a rich guy who went to Texas. I'll give money to Texas. And now it's going to be, well, I'm going to go meet with, Bain Capital to see how interested they are in Miami football or, a rebel group in the Congo or something.
They need to launder money. I need to pay some D linemen.
Match
you
made.
Scratch my back. I scratch
Yeah,
your
I
back.
think.
They're going to replace the Buffaloes with an ISIS logo.
Well, could have just gone with the actual
But yeah, you can see
Crest
this.
of the Kingdom.
You can see this play out. The USC Amazon Trojans, where if you need to buy discreet condoms, go to Amazon.com.
That's right.
And it's just all going to be just marketing at some point.
We know you were behind the 9/11 attacks, but we're all cool. We're just trying to play some football.
We've
all right?
really, really got to compete with Florida State.
Yeah.
So,
And dude, the sports world it's just a microcosm of everything else because at this point, as where we are as a planet, all of the ways to make money, they shift and they change, and it's kind of right now we're financial fracking. Like all of the old school ways of drilling and getting oil, the old fashioned way are gone. Now you've got to figure out all these weird, creative, and maybe not the most ethical ways to find capital.
Did you see Mac Brown's statement?
no.
Or he did an interview or something where he was like, he's 47, 48 years, or 48 years. He was like, there's been more change in the past year than in the first 47 years of my career.
Yeah.
And he was like, it's the mini NFL now. Just the idea of amateurism is out the window. Like for big time programs, you are a professional team it's a business now.
I mean, I'm not going to force my kid to be into football if he or she don't want to.
If
but
he wants to be gay, that's
totally fine. Hey, Blake's kid does gymnastics.
That's good upper body strength. That's good. How old
Good
is he?
coordination. He's almost 3.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Oh, but my kid's gay.
Yo, yeah, your kid's gay.
Just don't want to watch football.
Yeah,
but
his strong ass 3-year-old.
just manhandling.
Whip some
Manhandling.
ass.
You're
My kid wants to be a fireman, so he's definitely gay.
definitely gay.
My kid's like, what's your hypothetical again? Okay, so I completely forgot what I was going to say, thinking about making a joke about my child. Oh, if they don't want to be into
Don't
it, that's
transfer
fine.
the hypothetical to Carter, please.
Like the only thing that I can think of that would bum me out about being like, hey, this used to be this way and it was cooler is college football. Because it was such a big part of my life growing up.
It was so much cooler.
It was so cool. Like you could go to any game cheap if you wanted, relatively.
I have both ideas in my head where, like, of course, they are making billions of dollars off of these student athletes.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, the NIL deals I get where it's like, realistically, the percentage of players that are getting this money is so low where it's like big time sports, people selling tickets, and like people in those competitions where it's like the backup center at a Ouachita Baptist, his scholarship is overpaying him to be there.
Yeah.
It's like such a small percentage, but it does make like the folksiness of it gone.
It does.
Or it's like they're going to leave, you're going to get a better deal,
get a better deal, just free market, which of course I get.
is good for them.
But
the schools found a way to not have to. They could satisfy what is probably just and right for these kids to get something outside of just free tuition and books and maybe housing, if that's what's provided in their their scholarship program.
But
they're not having to tap into their own resources.
Yeah.
They're if you're going to Saudi Arabia to try to generate income to pay for these these NIL whatever they're supposed to receive in funds for all this outside stuff. It's like you would think that the schools have made so much money. Like you said, it's a $1 billion industry, billions of dollars industry, college football. Let's pay the kids, but nope, we're not paying them out of the school's funds. We've got to find other ways to make money for them to feel satisfied and made whole.
Yeah, and I don't know if it'll always be that way, but I know it's definitely taken an absolute jackhammer to the cool part of college football, but also just, I don't know, Texas and the SEC. It's like the only real old man thing about me these days is
You don't like it?
I hate it. I hate that USC is in the Big Ten and going to go play Penn State in a
It's kind of the old Southwest Conference.
I was waiting for somebody to bring that up.
Yeah, it's not that far off. Like it was kind of shifted over.
Yeah.
So it's like half of them were now SEC teams, and
That's true. But I also used to love.
Well, the old Southwest Conference was just Texas teams plus Arkansas.
Yeah, that's true.
So it didn't
but it's
stretch
still,
out to
the
Florida.
Southeast is still pretty regional, but once you get to Texas,
Do you like my confidence in my answer, though?
Yeah, that was really solid. It's just
I don't think that's
Southwest
right.
Conference.
No, but I mean, when we first got into college football, it was just the tradition of it, right?
Yeah.
Or at least for me, like Texas and OU have been playing for 100 years. That's awesome. But now, yeah, watching Oregon go to Ohio State, that just doesn't register.
I also used to love the week, 2 or 3 game that I'm like, oh shit, Texas and Ohio State. That's cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
And now that's like completely gone because Texas is just going to play Ole Miss.
But it didn't.
LSU.
It was cool because it didn't feel right. Like,
Yeah.
oh, this is only at the beginning.
Yeah.
But yeah, around Thanksgiving, Auburn, Alabama. Even though if they were terrible, you watched it because it's the Iron Bowl. They've been playing this for 150 years. It seems.
Then is Alabama still playing like FBS teams the first 2 weeks?
And in the middle.
Week
With the
10.
SEC being expanded, like you have all your slots filled now.
I think they are going to change that eventually. They'll change the entire scheduling thing. They're not going to let
the cupcake at the end.
Alabama play Old Dominion in Week 10 anymore.
Yeah,
not
the New Mexico School for the Blind is gonna just get the shit kicked out of them by Ohio State
Again.
So I have one more note from this story just because it really made me laugh. The guy, like I said, who went to Saudi Arabia, he quit. I don't know if he got sideways with Dion or with the program. He says it was just with some of the people in the admin department. And he gave an interview after he gave an interview and he wrote a letter to the school, his resignation letter. And he came over from Jackson with Dion. This is a guy named Trevor Riley. He was in the NFL for, I don't know, a handful of years, practice squad guy, bounce around. Went to Utah for college. He's 36 years old. And he says, the arrangement was that because I did all the NIL work at Jackson and got us through, you guys would pay me a modest salary and make me the special teams coordinator, which should have freed up time for me to handle NIL activities. You paid me $90,000 a year and let me handle special teams. I did all this work in your name and was told to pursue it. I burned through all my contacts in the Mormon community, which is worth about $3 trillion. Like,
okay, guy.
Moonshot. Like, because you're from Utah and you knew football players in Utah. He says, now I can't get these people to answer my calls because I just found out that none of my endeavors will happen.
Yeah, the Romneys aren't picking up anymore.
No, yeah.
How did he value it at $3 trillion?
I just the reason I wanted to read it is I don't know that I've seen that actual word in print for anything other than like
a deficit.
Government. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like to a guy to be like, you'll see like the DAC accusers say 100 million. And you're like, that's bold.
Mm-hmm.
But then this guy who was making 90K is $3 trillion.
Yeah.
Don't hurt me.